there has never been a 24-year-old man as handsome, charismatic, and smart since I was 24. He is Jackson Hinkle, the host of Legitimate Targets, and who joins me live now for the first time with me in the studio. Jackson, welcome to the show. It's fabulous to see you in the flesh at last. I will talk to you about Russia, but I want to talk to you about America first. Because I said in my monologue that the Don Soprano, otherwise known as Donald Trump, he's on a bit of a roll at the moment. When you think of what's happened with the Yemen, with Iran, and with now the Palestinian resistance in Gaza, it's been a good week for him, don't you think?
I think so. I think you, myself, Haz al-Din, a few others, are the only people who are, at this point, looking like we might be vindicated for saying, don't write Trump off completely. His supporters have a very good, they have a very good opinion on geopolitical issues. And if he listens to his supporters, then it could be a very interesting presidency. And it's important to remind everyone, we're only a few months in.
Yeah.
Just the beginning.
3 months in, yeah.
I mean, if Kamala Harris was president and Ansar Allah in Yemen bombed the Ben Gurion airport in the Zionist entity, do you think that 3 days later, 4 days later, she'd be signing a peace deal with those same Houthis in Yemen? No, she never would.
And praising them as brave and honorable people.
Exactly. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. If Kamala Harris was president, she wouldn't be going toe-to-toe with Benjamin Netanyahu and saying, you're not going to drag me into a war with Iran. You're going to have to settle down and not do this second invasion. You're going to have to allow aid into Gaza. You'd just be sitting back and allowing everything to happen. And then also, Trump, it should be noted, played a large role, as I understand, in this Pakistan-India.
He says so anyway, yeah.
I think
he'd say so whether he did or not, but he definitely has claimed that he got the ceasefire.
Maybe
which would make his week even bigger.
Maybe the Chinese air defenses that were used in Pakistan had a bigger role than Trump, possibly, in securing an end to that conflict. But Russia as well. You look at what he tweeted out a few moments ago. He said, look, Zelensky needs to get his act together. President Putin has made an excellent offer, and if Ukraine doesn't make good on this offer, then I'm going to have some big questions about the leadership there. So it's a very interesting time.
As you rightly say, we face the very real danger of being proved right, that it was right to hope for Trump rather than Harris, that it was right to say, despite dreadful decisions, comments, statements, optics, he might actually come good on the big issues. So far, there's a real possibility that we may be proven right. But the thing about Trump is the absolutely, apparently uncontrollable need that he has to talk too much, to say contradictory things, like a bull in a china shop. That could still go wrong for everybody in the world, including us, who were asking people to be patient.
Yeah, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth later. And, I'm not saying that Trump is the end-all be-all, neither are you.
No.
But we're simply saying that, as we've said from the very beginning, I think that Trump poses the unknown, an alternative to what is known. And Kamala Harris is going to just be more of the same old, same old.
That's a fact.
I have big hopes for Trump. Obviously, he's got a lot of work to do before any of these things we just mentioned, besides Pakistan and India, are actually realized. And I've seen a lot of troubling things too. Just this week, Trump sent 125 long-range missiles to Ukraine from Germany, 100 Patriot missiles from Ukraine, or from Germany to Ukraine. And there's a lot of concerning things there as well. So it's good to not lose track of that.
There seems to be something happening, though. Friedman, of all people, in the New York Times, of all places, in an op-ed with the headline, Benjamin Netanyahu is not our ally. This Israeli government is not our ally, I think was the exact headline. Trump is negotiating this night directly with Hamas, the Islamic resistance in Gaza. Nobody saw that coming.
No, and I saw a report. I don't know if it's true, but right before I joined you here, reports that Eden Alexander, who's the American hostage being held in Gaza, he's an Israeli American and was a soldier for Israel. They say that he's going to be freed as a part of these negotiations, which is something that was offered to the United States and to Israel before Israel recontinued the violence and stops the ceasefire. And that was an effort to show goodwill. Hamas didn't have to do that. That was an extra step outside of what they had already agreed upon in the initial ceasefire. So now we're seeing that move, and that's the last American hostage. Once he's gone, Israel knows they have to worry because America has no reason to have any heightened level of care or concern for those hostages because every American will be safe.
Yeah, and then we can go back to his former announcement that this is not our war. I think he has to realize that Ukraine, Gaza, these were Biden's wars. He doesn't have to stick with them, and he'd be ill-advised to. Now, he's just about to take delivery of a flying palace, which has come to something when the United States is being gifted the new presidential jumbo jet. He's about to tour the Persian Gulf, the Arab countries there. He's going to try and shake down MBS for $1 trillion investment in the US economy, and he might well get it. But part of the price of normal relations in the Gulf is that Trump drops this American objection to the idea of a Palestinian state. And he's caused great consternation in Netanyahu's camp by appearing to say that he might well be ready to do that. Do you think he might?
We'll see. Israel clearly thinks that he might be willing to do that because today they said any unilateral decision to recognize Palestinian statehood will be met with a unilateral response from us. So those are fighting words as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Word for Trump, if he actually is serious about this, given what they're saying in Israel. There's been a lot of stuff going on this week, though. You had the comments from Mike Huckabee saying, we don't need Israel's approval to dictate our foreign policy. You had Trump reportedly say that, this genocide needs to come to an end. We need to get aid in. We need to have a ceasefire again. You have Trump saying that Saudi Arabia will not have to recognize the Zionist entity, will not have to restore relations with them. So there's a lot going on this week, and it's all headed in the right direction. I'm just hoping, and of course, we can't forget about Mike Waltz being fired over allegedly operating in effect as an agent of Netanyahu.
Effectively working for Netanyahu rather than the president who was supposed to be serving. Yeah. Tell people who Mike Waltz is and what his importance was.
Mike Waltz was the National Security Advisor for the United States. So it's a very high-ranking position. As I understand, under Tulsi Gabbard, who's the Director of National Intelligence and kind of oversees all the information. The information comes to her every day and she gives it to Trump. NSA advisor is the man who's more of the working on the inside with all the organizations rather than overseeing it. Could be wrong about that, but that's what I've been told. So he's a very important role and obviously very close with Trump. And the fact that he was, in effect, serving the interests of a foreign state and trying to drag Trump into a war with Iran, I think just goes to show how much power Trump is willing to wield right now that he would get rid of him like that.
Yeah, although it's quite a good sinecure that he's sent him to at the United Nations. But you're right, he was sacked, and it was made clear why he was being sacked. The Don is the Don. He doesn't want to have his people working for rival families, even however close those rival families are. Now, you mentioned Iran. The B-2s, as I understand it, have left Diego Garcia. They are on their way back to the United States. This means that direct war between the United States and Iran is, for now at least, off the table. That's another very significant thing, isn't it?
Of course. I was in Yemen as well when
you were very bravely in Yemen.
They landed the B-2s at Diego Garcia when I was there.
Yeah.
And I remember texting my friends, I'm like, that's not a good sign at all. And then we had a few bombings really close to us. Then a few days after we left, I think one day after we left, the B-2s hit one of the storage facilities, presumably of some of the missile production in the mountains of Yemen. And it didn't do much damage. It kind of hindered the entrance to the facility, but it didn't actually do any damage to where they produced the missiles. And that was according to the Wall Street Journal. So I think those B-2 bombers, they're hard to detect, but as far as packing a punch and bombing through an entire mountain, they can't do much. It's a very difficult task to accomplish. So the feasibility of knocking out Iran's nuclear sites is next to impossible, I think. And it obviously poses the risk of great escalation. And the decision to bring them home is clearly a sign of, holding out the olive branch.
It's a big deal. It's a very big deal. The biggest enchilada, these are all big enchiladas, but the biggest one, the most likely to have led to World War III, to nuclear conflagration and the end of all humanity, was the Ukraine war. And you touched on it earlier, but let's not in any way minimize the significance of Trump ordering Zelensky to Istanbul on Thursday, because the fraudulent five, or the high five as I call them, given their habits, were telling him to do exactly the opposite when they were hanging out with them in the dives in Kiev. But Trump has blown all that away, if you'll forgive this continuing pun, has blown it all away by telling Zelensky, you be in Istanbul on Thursday. What do you think is likely to happen there?
I think that Zelensky is going to work closely with his, his fellow addicts like Starmer and Macron and who's the other guy today, Mertz. They're all doing something on the table. I don't know what it was they had.
Dudu or Dada, whoever he is, the erstwhile, here today, gone tomorrow, leader of Poland.
Yes, I think they're going to work overtime to try and obfuscate the situation in Trump and try to deceive him. Even Zelensky, 40 minutes after Trump said how happy he was that this is going to be happening, that this was offered by President Putin to meet in Istanbul, you had Zelensky tweet out that, yes, I'll be there. But he said something else. He told a big lie. He said, well, I'm very happy that this is happening. I will be there on Thursday or whatever in Istanbul. And I'm very happy that the ceasefire is going to be starting tomorrow. No one said anything about a ceasefire starting tomorrow.
It's a lie. It's a lie.
And he's saying that because, most people didn't actually listen to what President Putin said. President Putin said, first, we're going to have negotiations. And then, based upon those negotiations, maybe we can have
he said, I will not rule out a ceasefire if the negotiations are going right.
But now, you're going to have tomorrow come and the next day come and every day after that, where Russia's going to continue their operations, continue advancing on the battlefield. And you're going to have Zelensky the whole time saying, well, President Putin is not making good on his agreement of a ceasefire. I guarantee you that's what's going to happen. And unfortunately, I think that, who knows, maybe Trump is not paying attention enough either. And maybe he'll think that President Putin is not making good on his promises. I hope that doesn't happen, but that's kind of what it looks like if you read their tweets.
Yeah, I mean, Trump is capable of zigzags that would bewilder and dizzy most politicians, but he knows that this will have to be resolved at the negotiating table, or he's going to have to walk away from it, or he's going to have to really get involved in it. And if he really gets involved in it, he goes from being the peace president to the guy that presided over the end of the world. I don't think the Trump family dynasty is ready to pack up their business at this point. So I'm expecting the negotiations to begin. I don't actually think Putin himself will be there on Thursday. He might, but I would have, if I was Putin, I'd send Lavrov to get the early stages out of the way. I'd only show up when Zelensky was ready to sign the surrender. But it's up to them, of course. But I'm expecting high-level talks in Istanbul on Thursday. And that in itself is a vindication of the tough stand that Putin has taken and the amazing victory, 80th victory party we had this weekend. Isn't it extraordinary, the energy that you're beginning to feel about the new world?
It is. It is. I think the United States realizes that they're missing out on a lot right now.
Yeah.
I don't remember who it was. Someone said in the Russian government, they said that the U.S. is losing out on $300 billion a year in the Russian market. Trump's a businessman. I think he heard that and his ears perked up and he said, wow, what are we doing here? This is crazy. And it's true. I've been here for 8 or 9 months now, and there are many, many, many Western businesses who, by the way, are operating here with great losses, but under new names. You know, they've just changed the name of their corporation, and they're losing a lot of money in the process in doing that. But there's a lot of Western companies that are very excited to get back here and start doing deals again. Everything from small businesses that had buyers in Russia to law firms to large corporations, doesn't matter. Everyone wants to be back in this market because this market is succeeding while every major city in the United States looks like India, to be frank, at this point. It's not the people I'm saying, but like the level of
the public
trashiness,
realm. Yeah.
the infrastructure, everything like that.
It is this Eurasian, this nucleus. Of course, Africa's critical, Latin America too, but this Eurasian landmass, this Russian-Chinese nucleus of what the new world is going to look like, is pretty impressive, isn't it? I mean, you've been here 9 months, I've not even been here 9 days, but Moscow is a phenomenally impressive place.
No beach. There's no beach here, but...
Well, you're a Florida man, so you miss the beach more than me, but as a city, I mean, I've been in a lot of cities.
Yeah.
There are not many who which look like this.
No, there's nothing like this. And getting back to the point you said about it being the nucleus of this new world that's coming up, who are the most controversial, lightning bolts, but amazing leaders in the world today, other than President Putin and President Xi Jinping? You can look at Kim Jong-un, I think, is one of them. And I think Ibrahim Traore in Africa and in Burkina Faso is one of them. And who are they aligned with? Fully aligned with Russia. North Korea is sending their troops, not just to partake in the special military operation and, you know, engineering positions on the back of the front, but they're on the front line doing stormtrooping operations and performing quite well. This new world order that is taking shape here with BRICS, with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization out of Moscow, it's a lot closer to the Marxist-Leninist anti-imperialist perspective that is unshakable in North Korea and in Burkina Faso, and I think anyone in DC wants to admit, and it's very powerful.
Yeah, I'm sure that you're right. It is amazing to have you in the flesh. I still can't quite believe you're 24 because the level of sang-froid and wisdom that you display is truly amazing. I hope one day you're in the White House. You are the president of the United States.
First, we got to get you into 10 Downing Street.
Yeah, one day, maybe that train has left. But seriously, you have the poise and you have the things that are necessary to make America a better place. We'll talk about that later. I do hope that we see you in politics. But until then, we see you on legitimate targets. Tell us about that. How do we get that, and what does it deal with?
We're live on X 5 nights a week, 3 p.m. Eastern time, 10 p.m. Moscow time, covering multipolarity, and it's pretty much only on X and Telegram. This week we had Elon Musk's father on. It was a really interesting conversation.
Guy, yeah.
So everyone should check it out. And thank you so much for having me on.